All right, let's kick this off. Welcome to Next Course Unlocked. I am Jigsy. I am nervous, but everything is going to be fine. And that's how you should live your life. I am joined by Eve Beauregard and Nate tonight, who are going to taste some delicious steaks, I hope, if everything works out fine. Tonight, I've decided to do something a little bit different to what I'd normally do. Normally, I'd go for a steak and chips, but I found these absolutely beautiful little baby potatoes, and I thought, rather than making tiny little chips out of them, I may as well just cut them into potato wedges and fry them up, roast them up in the oven. Really, I'm just gonna run through what I've got. I've got some delicious eye fillets here. Eye fillet is the Rolls Royce of steak. The best thing about eye fillet is that it is a beautiful fatty piece of meat. And a lot of people say that fat's bad for you. They're wrong. You want fat, but in moderation. So the best thing about this meat is that as it cooks, that fat's gonna liquidize and really bring all that flavor through. I'm gonna keep it really simple tonight. I'm gonna teach you two of my favorite ways to cook steak. I'm actually combining them into one, and that's by flipping it about every 10 to 15 seconds, because what that'll do is actually encourage a Maillard reaction on the outside of the meat. And I'm also gonna baste it in butter with a little bit of garlic and rosemary, just because it really gives that decadent kind of feel. So, running you through my ingredients tonight, I've got some chicken stock to boil the potatoes up in, some butter to use for basting, some eye fillet steak, some beautiful fresh rosemary, a giant mutant clove of garlic. I was gonna use 3 cloves of garlic, but this one will do for everyone. Some salt and pepper, a little bit more butter just in case I feel like that's not enough, and some olive oil. And that's literally all it's gonna take tonight to cook up steak and chips a la Jigsy. First things first, how are you guys tonight?
We're good.
Very good.
Yeah?
Should we jump around and say hello?
You can if you want. I hadn't even thought of anything like that, but that seems like it would be a good kind of thing to do.
Disembodied voices. Hello.
Disembodied voices are kind of fun though. Like,
Yeah.
you can be essentially like the 2 grumpy old dudes from the Muppets, but
I'm so down for that. That is how we're going to define our relationship from now on.
well,
Is
that's
that 2 grumpy dudes. Okay.
What goal?
that's kind of my life goal, is to be those guys.
We're going to get out of your way and let you do the cooking.
Yeah, he's got a knife.
I do, and I sharpened it today.
It's not ominous at all.
So, easiest thing with these potatoes, guys, nice and simple. You just want to cut them in half and then cut them in half again, then chuck them into your pot. There's people that tend to boil things like potatoes, sweet potato, carrots, any kind of root veg really. People will boil them or drop them into boiling water to cook them. And with any really starchy kind of vegetable, you actually want to start off with cold water and bring it up to the boil, and that'll draw that starch out as well and stop it from tasting kind of chalky.
Is there some kind of secret to the fancy knife that you're using?
There's not. The very first chef I trained under when I started my apprenticeship but never finished it, used Global Knives, and I walked into the kitchen. It was work experience actually. He then later gave me an apprenticeship. I walked into the kitchen and he was sitting on the kitchen bench, having a cigarette and throwing his knives at a chopping board. And I kind of went, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "Oh, you're the next victim." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, that's a terrible joke." But we ended up becoming really, really good friends. Daniel, his name was. And he showed me that if you get a set of good knives and look after them, they'll last your entire life. And I've had these knives probably going on about 9 years. And I really only sharpen them once every 6 months. They're so low maintenance. They're beautiful knives. They're folded stainless steel, done the same way that the Japanese traditionally did samurai swords, which is just that extra little nerdy bonus to them.
That's just a great selling point. You should sell knives.
But the best thing about them is just they're so perfectly balanced. Like
Yeah.
they're beautiful knives. I guess in terms of knife skills, one of the first things that I learnt was always to kind of hold the knife just in front of the handle with your thumb and forefinger, and then grip it around like that, and then it becomes an extension of your arm, and you've got a lot more control over the blade.
We've got like a global knife fan club happening in the chat right now.
They're beautiful knives, and I mean you can kind of see we've got 2 knife sets. I actually bought Ray a set for her birthday. I think it was. It was either a birthday or Christmas, probably a birthday, and now I have 2 sets, and it feels overkill, but it's fantastic to be able to just lean over and grab them.
Someone in the chat says that they use a microwave to boil potatoes because they're too lazy.
Yeah.
Is there a
There's not. There was a big kind of school of thought that said anytime you cook in a microwave, you're sucking the nutrients out. Nate, you're a scientist, so correct me if I'm wrong. But really, all a microwave does is agitate the water molecules to heat them up. So, yeah, it's cooking. I guess if add some water into them and then chuck them in the microwave, they'll boil. Whether
In the
they
loosest sense of the term cooking, yeah.
Yeah, I think my thing with that is that just like throwing them in hot water, you're probably not going to get that starch out, so you're not going to get that fluffiness that you really want. All right, it takes a lot longer than I expected to cut potatoes, but that's all right. We're not going
We
anywhere.
learned all about knives.
Yes. So I am throwing in just some chicken stock. The reason I like to use stock when I'm boiling potatoes as well, rather than just water, is just to get a little bit more flavor in them when you're cooking them. The boiling process, as that starch comes out, hopefully some of the flavor should replace it. Everyone always giggles at the fart sounds. This is a really chickeny smelling stock too. Probably not vegan.
It's not lying, it definitely is chicken.
Yeah, Cole's real chicken stock has real chicken in it. So I don't know if you can quite see, but that chicken stock's just covered the potatoes. I'm just gonna add a little bit more water in there just because I want a little bit more through. And then I'm gonna bang it on a high heat. And now we wait for that to boil. And this is probably the most boring part of cooking, is the waiting. That's not going to take too long, but in the meantime, because we're cooking steak, there's really not much else for us to do.
Except a drink and general chit.
So I'm going to grab another drink.
There is a stout there with your name on
Oh.
it if you want it.
These are the Catwoman Wild Thing stouts. Where are these from? Is this the Murray's?
Yeah.
We've been searching for these for like a good 12 months. And Nate located them. They only make them once a year.
Once a year they make them, and I've been talking to the chick since January, and called up on the way down from Brisbane, and they had them in stock, so I took it up.
A 10%
on
stout.
myself. Yeah, 10%.
I like that you
Ooh.
bought a crate of it, but they don't sell it in crates.
Yeah.
Is that like you bought 4 6-packs of it and they were just
Yeah.
like, yeah, have a box?
Yeah, basically. So I had to smooth talk her.
Oh wow, there's like a coffee kind of really dark roast smell to it. That's really nice.
So of the 16 that are in the small little carton that I have next door, I was able to buy 12 of them as the premium stout, imperial stout, and I got 4 coffees, so we'll have to try them next time.
That is really nice.
Yeah.
And you can feel almost immediately that kind of 10%.
Yeah.
Just that warmness in the back of your throat. I'm having some throwbacks to moving in with Yug and learning how much I really dislike tequila. Not in a bad way. This is much
He made me do a
nicer.
shot
But
before and said welcome, and then walked out the front door, so that was great.
that does not surprise me in the slightest. So while we're waiting for that water to boil, because that's going to take a while, what I am going to do is just give the meat a little bit of a season. Now, because we're using eye fillet and because it's got that much fat in it that it's really going to bring a lot of the flavor through itself, I don't really want to do much to the meat. I just kind of want to give it a little bit of salt and pepper, bring out those natural flavors of the meat, and then we'll imbue it a little bit with the garlic and rosemary as we go through later. So give them a little flip, a little bit more salt and pepper. Now there is some science behind this, and again, having a scientist in the kitchen probably helps.
A
But
little bit.
what I've found through meticulous research or reading Wikipedia, whatever you want to call it, is that there is kind of an optimum time to salt meat. And the reasons for that is that the only reason you really salt it is to give it a little bit of flavor. It's between 3 and 40 minutes is what I'm told is kind of the optimum time to salt it, because that gives it enough time for that salt to draw the moisture up and then for it to go back in. Why does it do that? Science question.
Do you actually want the answer?
If you've got it, I don't know it.
Okay, so the reason why water moves towards salt is because of osmosis. It basically moves from high concentration to low concentration. So because it's very, very salty on the outside, all of the water is drawn to it to establish an equilibrium. and yeah, so you get that split second. Well, it depends on how long you wait with the salt on it. Depends on the level of liquid that gets drawn out to establish that equilibrium.
Because that's one of the things I've also been experimenting with smoking meat lately, and on my tiny little barbecue outside, I remember that you stuck your head around the balcony because you were worried there might be a fire.
The balcony was being filled with smoke, and I thought you guys might have like caught on fire or had some kind of explosion, but you were just smoking meat, so it was fine.
Kind of. I haven't quite learnt how to manage the temperature on that thing yet. It's really, really touchy. But one of the things that I've been doing with that is leaving the meat kind of salted overnight. And what I've noticed is that if I do it, kind of an hour or so before I cook and then throw it on, it's really, really nice. If I do it longer, the flavor is just so much more intense. Like I did a brisket that I used a little bit of coffee grounds, a little bit of cinnamon, and then some salt and pepper, some cayenne pepper, and some cumin, and a little bit of steak seasoning just to cheat a little bit. But what it really did was I noticed that the fat on top of it had really almost started to cook in itself from the salting, and that, I guess, makes its own kind of brine when you dry rub it.
Yeah.
And then does the exact same things you were saying.
Have you done brine with chicken and stuff like that?
I haven't done a chicken brine yet. I've thought about doing chickens, but the problem is that I've got this really small Weber kettle.
We got just a really amazing comment in the chat. Clarify, mate. I've been experimenting with smoking meat lately. You mean smoking meats? I could only imagine Jigsy rolling a steak and puffing.
Okay, yes, smoking meats is probably a much better way of putting it than smoking meat. Though
For anyone who doesn't know what that process involves, what exactly are you doing?
Oh, cool. So it's generally an indirect heat, and you've got your meat on a grill, but not over the hot coals. And what that does is you have a much more control over the heat. Once you add some wood chips to that, and especially soaked wood chips, they'll smolder rather than burn, and that'll produce this beautiful, flavorful smoke depending on the wood that you use, and that'll kind of it's kind of like reducing the temperature on the oven down to 110 degrees or something and slow cooking a lamb leg, except you're covering it in that smoke, and it just brings so much flavor through it, and the longer you cook it, the better. And I haven't quite mastered the specific lengths of time for different things. I did lamb ribs the other night that got a little bit they were still a bit fatty. I needed them to go a little bit more, but it's really it's an all day kind of thing, and it's been really fun to get up early and go buy meat and then start a fire and then just sit next to it and cook and drink the entire day.
That sounds like a good time. Did you know you can smoke lemonade? Yag and I went to a bar the other night and they were serving smoked lemonade.
I have to imagine that that's made with smoked lemons.
That's what we thought, but then they replied to us on social media and it turns out that they smoke the water. And so I guess the water takes on that flavor and then they add the lemons and the sugar. It was amazing. We passed it around a table of people and everyone took a sip out of it and there was a 2-second delay and then everyone went straight afterwards. It was just this real punch in the throat. It was good though.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, it was cool.
Can we go there?
Yeah.
Now?
No, you're on a show.
That's
You're-
gonna.
You're doing a thing.
You're cooking.
It's
Yeah.
still got a while before it starts boiling. But.
It does sound pretty amazing though.
Well, one of the other things, so my friend Tristan, who you guys know, is one of my biggest inspirations when it comes to food. It's been really cool having someone to bond over and talk about different things that we want to try. And he put me onto this incredible idea that I had never even thought of. He was like, next time you're smoking something, chuck some garlic, chuck some onions in there as well and smoke them, and then make them into a barbecue sauce, either for what you're smoking that day or for the next day. So now I've I've been trying to play around in my head and work out how I can do a smoky bourbon, garlic and cola sauce type thing and have a JD and Coke smoked, We were talking about getting JD wood pellets to smoke with. So if you get JD wood or even wood soaked in JD and get that bourbon flavor through it, if you can match that with a cola barbecue sauce and have a JD and Coke kind of...
That sounds amazing.
So that's what I want to try.
Tristan is great at making accompanying sauces for meals. It's
Oh.
crazy.
We had a
Goes that extra mile.
Well, there's a picture on Instagram on my channel that I got from when we all went round and had that chicken feast at his place, and
So good.
So much salt.
90% of the time, I'm really not fussed on chicken. For me, it's quite bland, and it really comes down to how much flavor you put around the chicken. But that was by far the best fried chicken I have ever had in my entire life. And kale collard greens.
Yeah, that was caught you off guard, didn't it?
It did, because, the whole thing started because I was like, kale's pretty shit. And Tristan's like, let me make some kale for you.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah, and then turns around and goes, here is some awesome kale collard greens. You like kale now.
How
and
dare he rise to the challenge?
and,
It was so good.
and now I've kind of been wanting to make kale collard greens since. But that's if I could pick a dream travel location, it'd probably be through the south of America and just tasting all that, that barbecue and that, I don't even like seafood, but I definitely would try a smoked crawfish
Oh,
or,
you'd have to.
or
You
the seafood
couldn't go there
gumbos that they
without
do.
doing it. We're just setting up holidays at the moment. That's all we're
Yeah,
really doing.
just planning them. So potatoes are starting to come to the boil, so that didn't take as long as I expected, which is probably a good thing. Otherwise, you guys would be bored shitless.
I'm enjoying myself.
We were just talking about Tristan some more.
I could talk about Tristan for a while. I don't know how long we could go before it starts to get weird, but I definitely could talk about Tristan for a while.
A solid man crush.
A little bit.
A little bit. Yeah, that's perfectly fine.
This stout is really nice.
It is a.
Where are these guys based? So it's New South Wales,
Yes.
somewhere between here and Brisbane.
Yeah, between here and Brisbane. I actually
How
have.
long had you driven when you got there?
And did you take the inland route or the coastal route or the highway?
No way.
Because-
I definitely took a Pacific Motorway down the coastline, and he goes, "Oh, do you want to take this route?" And I was like, "Oh, okay. Let's see how much slower it would be." And he goes, "Oh, it'll add 2 hours and 11 minutes, and it would have taken me out to Tamworth for some unusual reason." So I just stuck on Pacific, but it was really, really bad for a lot of it.
So I was actually talking with Ray, speaking of road trips and everything. I haven't been to Canberra since I was a kid, essentially. And now from Sydney, it takes 2.5 hours to get to Canberra. And in my mind, that's ridiculous because Canberra's a 6-hour drive away because it always used to take 6 hours.
Yeah.
And even the drive to Queensland, I remember being 18 hours and then 14 hours. And now it's 11 and a half.
Yeah, well, they've still got a lot of construction going. I
And that's-
had the joys of that.
As one of the disadvantages of living in such a remote kind of island location really is that the sense of scale that we have versus every other continent on the planet is
Yeah.
just bizarre. We're about the same size as the US, right?
Yeah. General landmass.
That is the close, the extent of my geography knowledge. I am, I know that the Arctic is at the top and the Antarctic is at the bottom.
Yeah, exactly right.
I'm just going to shift us away from geography and talk about food for a second. Someone in the chat wants to know how you came up with the idea to do this stream.
To do the stream, I've been wanting to do a bit of Twitch stuff for a while now, but I'm not that good at games. So I thought maybe, I could either play off that and do a stream where I'm shit at whatever game I'm playing that week, or I could throw in something that I really love doing. And cooking is probably my second passion after games. I started an apprenticeship. I never finished it. The drugs, the social life, and the hours and the pay just all conspired against everything. And I went, this isn't worth it. And I've always wondered what life would have been like if I had have stuck to that path and finished my apprenticeship. So doing this kind of gives me the opportunity to still do something I love, learn something new when it comes to Twitch, and also show people that, cooking good food, I guess it's kind of a Jamie Oliver-esque type thing. It's really easy to do, and it's really simple, and it's not that expensive. And I figured if I can do that on Twitch, why not? And with Twitch Creative, it seemed like the perfect time and the perfect storm to bring it all together.
Someone said that they thought about streaming what they were good at, but nobody wants to see me moving colored squares in Excel. I would love to watch someone stream making spreadsheets.
If I could, like,
That is
yeah,
so
if
satisfying.
if someone was to turn around and do like an Excel masterclass on Twitch,
Yes.
I would watch that.
If
I
you
would
wanna-
tune in regularly.
If you want to show me how you like convert your external analytics into something that doesn't look like a mess and like a CSV, then I will totally watch that stream.
I've given up with everything. I just, I either look for social monitoring tools that do all the work for me, or I think that's going to be the hardest thing when I find a new job is turning around and going, "Hi, I need this hardware and this software. Otherwise, I don't know what to do with my life anymore."
I can show you how to do it the ghetto way.
The ghetto way.
Yeah.
All
Manually
right.
Entering data.
So these potatoes now are pretty much done. I only want to parboil them. I don't want to boil them till they're mushy because I still want a little bit of that freshness in them. I've realized I've only got one oven mitt, so this could hurt. But
We believe in you.
it's all right. It's okay. It's not hurting too much.
At least if you get
Ow.
injured, it'll be for Twitch.
I'm alive. I got all the potatoes. That's a win.
None stuck to the bottom.
Ow. No, they're all there.
What about your fingers? Are they all there?
Just hold your
Are
cold
they supposed to be that red?
Just hold it. Just. The healing remedy of stout.
Now, one thing you don't want to do is wait too long once you get your potatoes out. So, here's one I prepared a little earlier. It's just a tray. I've got a roasting tray. It's probably about a 2-inch high roasting tray. Normally I use this for lamb or for chicken. Ow, that's still really hot.
We believe in you.
So really what I want to do...
Says you spent all your money on AV equipment and didn't have enough for an extra oven mitt.
I do actually have a second oven mitt. I did spend a lot of money on AV equipment recently and borrowed some. Thanks to Matt and Kira for letting me use their extra webcam. Ow, that's popping. So I'm just going to drizzle the potatoes with a little bit of olive oil. I'm sure that's coming through now. You can hear that on the mic, that's just popping.
That's some good sizzle factor you have there.
Now, I'm going to use these a little bit later as well. Wow, that rosemary's messy. I'm going to throw a couple of sprigs on because I just want to roast them just a little bit. And again, salt and pepper, your best friend in the kitchen. Next to garlic and rosemary and steak. And butter.
And other condiments.
So you can almost hear that's the moisture inside the potatoes, isn't it? Science person?
Yeah, let's say that.
Why does it whistle? That's
Why
a,
does it whistle?
that's a conversion of energy from heat into
Yeah.
sound.
Yeah.
That's pretty much how it works, isn't it?
Sound is definitely an energy.
Well,
That's
the-
that much I remember
sound
from
is
school
one of
that
the
sound is an
10
energy.
basic energy types and it's considered
There
the
is-
Whoa.
biggest energy.
There are 10?
It's like
There are
heat,
10. There are 10.
heat,
basic,
light, and sound.
Heat,
There's-
light, and sound are the three main waste energies that are produced from inefficient energy transfer or transformation channels.
I don't think they're wastes.
It depends on if. Oh God. It depends if that was the sole purpose of the energy transfer or transformation.
Okay, so in that sense, if it's
Sorry, someone in the chat said it's the potatoes screaming, you monster.
It definitely well could be. Vegetables do feel
I
pain.
d- no, why would you say?
Vegetables do feel pain.
At,
but
at
pain
what
is just-
stage is that pain gone once the potatoes have been pulled out of the ground?
Okay, so
Because I just cut those.
no one else heard the screaming? Oh, just me. Okay, that's a bit awkward then.
How do
Okay.
they feel pain?
Okay, pain is a chemical reaction that is a result to stimulus. So it has been found, I think the test was done on broccoli, that there was
Broccoli's
a
the
chemical
worst.
Two
reaction.
friends are rogue.
Broccoli is the worst. Yeah, a chemical reaction occurred from stimulus, and the stimulus was cutting, and they found that particular chemical reaction only occurred when the vegetables were being cut or pulled from the earth. So they identified that it was some form
Does
of...
that count as pain
Well,
though?
it's in the
Someone in the
loosest tense of
Oh,
pain.
somebody in the chat said they're never eating again.
I hear oxygen and water is great for you. If that's all you can survive off, you'll be fine.
What about flour? Because if you can get away with that, then
flowers or just
Flour.
Well, you got to get that.
I mean,
I have another food
Yeah.
science question. Today I had a drink that said it had live cultures in it. What does that mean?
that's
live cultures.
is there such a thing as live cultural appropriation?
In a drink.
Wow, I'm not gonna go down that road.
Yep, that's probably best.
Let's just leave it alone.
Let's move right along.
So the steak.
So,
Yeah, okay.
the oven, I preheated that to about 200 degrees with the roasting tray in there. I'm gonna probably give those about 20-25 minutes. So, we've got a little bit of time before we have to start the steaks, which means we can probably move on from violent vegetable hate crimes. Although I did want to ask, is that like when you cut a tree? Not that I go around cutting trees, but like a tree bleeds
It's
sap?
only when
Like,
they
is that a
talk-
similar
when
kind
they
of
talk
thing?
Trash about you, then you go cutting trees.
Yeah, and if, like, if I happen to have sided with Sauron and the Orc army and, and I'm
trees
not
are
a fan
my
of the
friend.
Ents, they took their time getting there. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh god.
Not about when you show up, it's how much work you do when you get there.
Yeah, try telling that to my boss. Who might be watching? Who might be watching?
Just got cold.
Whoa. If you are watching, I love you, Craig.
No, Old Snake 22, this is not a YouTube video, this is very live.
This is very live. Very live.
Just
This
so you know,
is...
we said your name.
Yes, because if it was a YouTube video and we said your name, that'd be fucking weird.
Is there a way that we can make it seem like a YouTube video now? Just to freak him out. It's like, it's all live. Oh god, it actually is a YouTube video.
No, I just... Can we... There's no way we can make like an annotation pop up right now.
That was disappointing.
Don't
When I-
ask
when
the
I
control room to do that, they're not equipped.
No, but when I upload this to YouTube later and I send that link to
Chuck
him,
it in. Post edit.
Mr. Science is a science teacher, for people who are asking.
Yeah, science and mathematics.
yes, who is also known as Nate, not just Mr. Science. That's kind of my pet name for him.
That's the nickname the chat have given you. It is your name now.
Alright, so I go change my birth certificate now, or is that...
Well, Ray and I, apparently, there's a bit of an internet poll at the moment going on to change, to choose our last name once we get married. So I think at last someone recommended of Riviera, or of Rivia. And I kind of was like, could we go of Winterfell?
Is Bodie McBoatface the second option?
That was the first suggestion.
That was
but
the first suggestion.
of Venneberg,
Vengerberg.
Vengerberg, Vengerbus, Vengerbus.
These sounds are actually not syllables.
This is.
I'm just trying to turn this into a Swedish chef.
I was gonna say, is this? Bork, 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 bork. Oh, I'm not gonna do that
I'm very
again.
disappointed.
Alright, tell us
Well,
about
I totally would, but
what are you going to do with the steak?
so the steaks. I probably should have got a pan out earlier.
I'm gonna draw okay, pan. Because if you're gonna pull out a pan and draw small,
Yes, no, a pan.
Experience a lot lighter.
A little note on pans. A lot of non-stick pans. They're good, but after a little while, they're not. So I tend to not bother with them, and I generally go with stainless steel. Is this another chat comment?
Is this what British humour is?
Uh,
No, not the UK.
I think this would probably be the perfect time when I upload this to YouTube to just put that little Malcolm Tucker bit in, where he just looks at the camera and he's like, "Don't you ever fucking call me English again."
Yep, good. Sorry,
You told him.
No,
This
this
chat
is-
is great. You guys are hilarious.
Aw. I'm just glad there's people watching. I was worried that this was just going to be us and I would make a fool of myself again, just like that one time in high school.
It would be fine if it was just us.
Ooh,
This is fine.
story time.
You sound like the Vine guy. Story time.
Start childhood trauma and cooking. That's your next show.
And stout.
That is. I think I would watch that. I would. I'm a bit of a masochist when it comes to stuff like that.
Nothing makes a good steak like childhood tears.
Right, so I am just going to steal that rosemary back. I only want to get a little bit of that flavour through the potatoes. It's really hot.
I thought you-
Yeah, straight out of the oven. That'll do it to you.
because I am going to drop that rosemary in. I'm just going to cut it in half.
Baxi 180, 1080 says that Jigsy, so many of us love you. I don't even like cooking or food and I'm watching.
I guess that's good.
And then, yeah.
I don't even like cooking or you, but I'm watching. I was like, oh, okay.
I'm just watching, just in case. All right, so in terms of steaks, I'm just going to chuck that pan on a medium heat just to heat up a little bit, and then I'll get my producer, the wonderful Padawan, to switch over to that camera once we get a chance.
Old Snake's asking, when did this channel start? Isn't it right now? This is the first one.
This is technically the first one. I did a test stream last night. I cooked a Moroccan lamb salad. Forgot to archive it, so you
It's
know.
fine. It's a test.
Which was
Secret
good.
exclusive test.
But I
for
did
those people who
that.
showed
It's
up.
you know,
It
it's
was
like
for
a
early
it's a
access.
closed alpha.
Yeah.
But I kind of wanted to watch it
Kickstarted
back so
that,
I can make sure
exactly.
everything worked.
If you pre-ordered, you get exclusive access.
You can support my Patreon.
The
I don't have
schedule-
one.
The planned schedule is Wednesdays.
So ideally, Wednesdays at 7 p.m. AEST, which will then become 7 p.m. AEDT once daylight saving starts. And then on Fridays, not this Friday, but starting from next Friday, I'm hopefully going to be uploading the longer episodes up to YouTube, which will include, you know, anytime I decide to smoke meat, smoke meats plural.
Many a rolled meat.
Is it true
I suppose-
you guys eat kangaroo with strawberry sauce?
I've never eaten kangaroo with strawberry sauce. I have eaten it with a plum sauce, which isn't quite as sweet. Kangaroo is
Amazing meat.
it's beautiful. It's there's a theory that says that, you know, we could solve a lot of the Australian kind of impact that beef and lamb has on the environment if we just increased our kangaroo intake by about 10%. It's a beautiful meat. You can't go higher than medium rare, otherwise it starts to just turn really, really stringy.
It is a very unique taste as well.
Yeah, there's a wonderful sweetness to it, so it does work really well with those kind of sweeter sauces. Just realised I've got a pan on the stove.
It's alright, it's not going
Distracted by
anywhere.
kangaroo.
No, I love kangaroos, so it's one of those meats that I'd love to cook more. I'm actually, we've got a Novo sous vide that I really want to try and work out how to use that. This is probably going to get a little sizzly in a second, because that's nice and hot.
What is it? Australia is the only country that eats an animal on our coat of arms.
Yes, I've never eaten koala. I don't think I'd like to. Emu steaks, though,
Emu's really nice.
and
I
emu
actually
egg
really
omelets, you need like a team of 7 to eat emu egg omelets. They're amazing.
Someone's asking if you can get diseases from eating kangaroo. I guess only if the kangaroo is diseased.
Well, yes and no. So, unfortunately, kangaroos are really, really prone to worms. So, you can get worms really easily from eating kangaroo. The problem is,
If you are looking forward to catching worms,
is that to kill all the bacteria and the eggs that are in the meat that cause worms, you need to cook it to about kind of 75, 80 degrees before it starts killing them off, which means that the meat starts to become really tough. So it's this balancing act between how do I cook my meat and how do I have worms or not have worms. So
I want delicious tender meat, but I also don't want worms.
yeah.
Old Snake is asking where's the salt and pepper on these steaks. You put it on before, right?
Yes, I did. I've already pre-seasoned these steaks. I needed to give them a little bit of time before they came on.
We also had some questions about what cut you're using for people who showed up late.
What cut?
Yeah.
So this is an eye fillet, which I like to think of as the Rolls Royce of steaks. They are generally more expensive than your standard kind of Scotch fillets or your rumps or anything like that. But it is really a case of, you know, you kind of get what you pay for. So I tend to buy the eye fillets whole, and then I'll cut them up. I'll get the butcher to cut them up if I'm feeling lazy into steaks about this size. Then it works out to roughly be about $9 a steak. So you're probably saving about half of what you'd save if you bought them from a supermarket or something just as a single eye fillet steak.
So Old Snake, all the questions that you're asking are actually answered earlier on in the stream. So you should watch this again later.
So here's the thing, like one of the things that I'm doing here is that rather than sitting these steaks on and leaving them on, you know, for 4.5-ish minutes each side, what you want to do is you want to constantly flip those steaks. And what happens then is that they're not in contact with the heat any longer than they need to be. So you won't get that kind of burn to them. But what you'll get is that all the sugars and the proteins and everything will start to caramelize and you get that beautiful Maillard reaction on the outside. And that gives you a really crispy steak on the outside, but a really beautiful, soft, tender steak on the inside.
Someone really wants us to hear this joke, so they've sent it twice. Do they make kangaroo beer, or are there too many hops?
Oh wow.
Too many hops.
Ah, okay.
Hops.
Huh?
Like a kangaroo.
They don't hop, they jump. I don't get it.
They're hops.
Oh man.
So here's my favorite bit, moving on from the kangaroo jokes.
Why?
I've now added the butter. So what I want to do is just let that butter melt. It's going to bubble. It's going to bubble profusely. And once it starts to get to that beautiful kind of melting point where it's foaming, that's where I want to drop my rosemary in and my garlic, which you can't see because the camera's looking the other way, but I'm just going to give that a few little slices and then drop it straight back in the pan. And now, as that butter cooks, it's going to draw all of those flavors out of the rosemary and out of the garlic. And I keep flipping these steaks. You can see that bubbling on the outside. That's what you want. And throw a little more butter in.
Starting to smell amazing.
I might be salivating quite a bit at the moment.
And then what you want to do is you just want to grab a spoon, tilt the pan towards you. This is my absolute favorite part. This is the most decadent thing I have ever done in the kitchen, is literally just scoop that butter up and just pour it over that meat. Try not to touch the pan because you will burn yourself like I just did.
Hot metal is hot.
Hardy6619 wants to know what you're feeling towards cast iron pans is.
Cast iron pans are good. So cast iron is really, really good for retaining heat for a long period of time. If I was doing something on a fire, I would use cast iron every single day of the week. I guess gas is probably not too dissimilar from that, but the problem that I have with that is that I need to clean at some stage, and a cast iron pan will stay hot for hours afterwards. And they can also be really, really difficult to clean. You also need to season a cast iron pot with a little bit more oil every time you use it, and that can become a bit of a chore.
Bayless, yes, this is live.
Yes, this is
We need
live.
a sign that says live.
I was pretty sure there's one up in the top right of Twitch, but at the same time, I guess since they've been
I
doing...
don't know if you're playing a YouTube video from your broadcasting software or if you're streaming it live.
That's a good point.
You wanna, I'm gonna buy you a neon sign.
Or if the
Because
meat is
neon
alive.
signs have never lied to anyone.
I just had a total kind of Fallout flash where I went into the settlement builder and built the neon signs from the Wasteland Workshop DLC. Okay, so I guess I should explain. The reason that I am basting the steaks is because I've flipped them. That means that the bottom of them is actually getting that extra temperature. So by basting the steaks and pouring essentially hot fat over the top of them, I'm allowing the top side to heat up to the same temperature so that it cooks beautifully and evenly and you get that crispiness on both sides.
Smells so good.
It is my favorite thing in the world. Steak is one of the best dishes that you can make. and it's really, really easy. I mean, you don't have to do this basting method if you really want to. Just flip them every 15 seconds or so, 15 to 20 seconds, and that cooks them like a rotisserie.
It's like watching magic happen. This is all great stuff.
You're getting so many compliments on your AV setup.
I should really explain, this is literally two Logitech C920s. I've got one attached to a magnetic griller pod hanging over my stovetop. The audio equipment's probably where I spent the money. I am running a Rode Podcaster mic, which is absolutely fantastic, thanks to the guys at Rode, and a Rode Wireless Link Filmmaker kit, I think it's called, so that I can have a lapel mic and freely move around the kitchen without, you know, cables tripping up or catching fire. So I can tell just from how springy these steaks are that these ones at the front are pretty close to done. These ones at the back probably need a little more. So I'm just going to move those so that they're over the heat a little bit more. That's probably a good time to flip them as well. And you can see that beautiful color starting to come through.
People want to know if this is your own recipe.
Yes and no. So I learnt the flipping the steak method is one that I learnt from Heston Blumenthal. Not personally. He appeared on an episode of MasterChef Australia a few years ago. Showed it with sirloin. I like sirloin as a steak because it is nice and cheap and it's a great barbecue steak. And it works really, really well with this kind of method. But at the same time, there's that strip of fat down the side that unless you give it the care it needs, it just doesn't render down. The butter basting, that's one that a lot of chefs in restaurants use. I don't know if I could say a specific chef that taught me it. It's one that has always kind of been in the repertoire. It's a very French style. It's, you know, a little bit pretentious, a little bit decadent, very French. They would normally slice it as well before they present it, but I like to keep it real.
Another question someone had is how long would you flip before basting, and then how long is the basting?
So, really what I want, I tend to go by feel, and that's probably the secret to it. I'll show one at the camera. If you hold your hand out and then you hold your thumb and your forefinger together, the texture that you feel on the heel of your hand there, on your thumb, that is generally a rare to blue kind of steak. And then as you move up in fingers, that actually gets firmer and firmer. And that's how chefs generally treat meat. And you kind of go, okay, it's about that firmness, so it's done.
That is so cool.
It is. It does scare me that someone one day was like, hey, this is very, very similar to a well done steak. The other thing, which I'll show in a second, beautiful color on them, and they're starting to firm up, so I can feel just by pressing the tongs against them how cooked they are.
People are asking what you're going for, like well done or medium rare.
I always go for a medium rare to medium well, and that's the kind of perfect balance. I was saying this on the test stream last night actually, that people talk a lot about they don't like to have anything under medium well or well done because the steaks get really, really bloody. And that's a bit of a misnomer. For one, it's not blood that comes out. I'm actually going to take that off the heat now. One very, very, very important thing. Whenever you're cooking meat, don't put the cooked meat on the same plate that you had the raw meat on. That is a very, very quick way to get sick. So, coming back over here,
Salivating
Just
so
smells
much.
So good.
there is a, it does smell fantastic. So,
I'm not gonna lie.
no,
It smells amazing.
my two favorite ingredients are garlic and rosemary. So for me, like just basting them in butter with that garlic and rosemary through it, I'm actually going to, ow,
Have a wee bit of a drizzle.
I'm gonna just chuck some of that garlic on top. I can't help myself. Look at the crust on that. Like that's just beautifully fried up.
Some good caramelization.
And I'm just gonna squeeze that all over it and then give it a scrape off. I really want that flavor to come through.
Wow, the chat's getting heavy.
Good heavy, bad heavy.
Yeah, it's going in a direction.
Oh.
Let's talk about food.
Oh, that looks really good.
So the other thing that you will need in your kitchen is a digital meat thermometer. This is the foolproof way to cook meat. So this is where I'm either gonna make a fool of myself or actually make myself feel like I know what I'm doing. I'm going for about 65 to 70 degrees Celsius on this. At the moment, it's sitting at 69.1, so I'm pretty happy with that. And that, to me, would put it in about the medium rare to well done kind of spectrum. So what I'm looking for is really a beautiful kind of crust on it and a nice pink interior. But first, I need to let that meat rest.
Young's in the chat. He's asking if it'll be ready by the time he gets home.
Yes, it will, but there's not enough for you because you didn't want to be on the show, jerk.
Out of all the flavours, you had to pick sour.
So the general rule to resting meat is that you should leave it to rest roughly about half as long as you cooked it. And what that does is allows all the fibers in the meat to relax a little bit and retain some of that moisture. And you know that you haven't rested your meat long enough if you cut into it and meat juice just goes everywhere. That's the technical term for it, by the way, meat juice.
Meat
It's
juice.
not blood, it's meat juice, which, you know.
Don't Google it.
No, don't. So in the meantime, I'm just gonna check these potatoes. They are starting to color up nicely on top. Yeah, touch them with a little bit more salt. And that rosemary leaves that have left
So
over
much
it.
Everything
Saliva.
smells so good. This
So
is like
much.
torture. Sailors, yeah, we are going to eat it. We're not just going to leave it.
Oh yeah, this is all for the dog.
Of course
That
we're
would
going to eat
never be
it.
a thing that would happen.
We wouldn't allow it.
Oh, I just spilled oil all over my counter. So you can kind of see the bits that have been face down have really got that beautiful kind of crispiness on them. So I want to get that around the rest of it. So I'm going to throw those back in, and really they should be done about the same time as the meat's taken to rest.
Blue, Red and Gold wants to know where to get a meat thermometer.
Where to get a meat thermometer? I got this one from Victoria's Basement, a great online store. I believe you can actually get them from Amazon.com as well. This one is an Accurite. It's the best investment you can ever make. I think this one cost me about 12 bucks. It takes a AA battery. You throw it in, you power it on, you stick it in. It beeps when it tells you what the temperature is, and everything's fantastic. It is literally the easiest way to know. If you're ever unsure about what temperature to cook meat, throw a thermometer in it, check Google, go Optimum Cook for beef, for lamb, for fish, and it'll tell you what the temperature ranges should be for each of them.
The chat's just still talking about the potatoes screaming and them still being alive.
Oh, no, they weren't screaming this time. They were cheering.
Yeah, they're really excited.
Yes,
They're really impressed by the steak.
they're loving the steak. There is one thing I need to do with these steaks, actually, and this is just for that extra decadence.
He's introducing more butter.
No,
Yes.
Victoria's Basement has nothing to do with Victoria's Secret. You're very funny.
Yes, Victoria's Basement and Victoria's Secret are two separate things.
But are owned by the same person.
There was a part of me that always got them confused for a little bit when I was younger, while I was doing my apprenticeship. By the way, yes, I am literally buttering these steaks. So it was before I had kind of grown to a stage where I was, excited about Victoria's Secret.
Sorry, you just saying that you were confused about both of them just makes me think that you were rocking up to your apprenticeship.
Expecting something different.
No, just dressed. In
Hi, I've got all my
Secret.
supplies from Victoria's Secret. When do we start? No, it was more the other way around. I was like, Victoria's Secret? That must be like the outlet store for outlet stores where
you're
everything's
going-
even cheaper.
You're going to the lingerie shop to try and buy some good quality knives.
Yeah, and I'm kind of like, hey, have you guys got the Henkel series this year?
I'm sorry to say this to you, sir. I think you're in the wrong shop.
Oh. I would like to poll each of the Victoria's Secret employees and just ask how many people have come in for kitchenware. But I don't think it'd be that many.
That's an unusual conversation to have, I feel.
Yeah, I don't know how I'd start that conversation. I mean, that's probably where it gets a little
Just dive into the deep end.
Just straight
Wing
in,
it.
just like, hey guys.
Roll of the dice.
Do you guys like homewares?
Do you enjoy cooking at home, or? Oh, that. I'm gonna say that steak instead of that meat looks so good, because that could definitely be
Do you want to pick which one's yours?
misconstrued. Oh, do I want to? Oh, maybe. Maybe.
Oh no. I think that's timed out. Are we back on? Yeah, we're back on. Maybe, kind of.
Yep, there we go.
All right.
We had
So look,
some-
yeah, it looks like the battery in the lapel mic's not got too much longer, so I'll have to charge those. That's probably a good idea.
Someone says you got butter on your mic.
Got it.
Oh. Yeah.
That one?
Yeah.
Oh, you had to go for the biggest one,
No,
didn't you?
President Sloth, you can't substitute the rosemary for grass.
No.
I don't know what type of grass you're referring to, but either way, you're wrong.
Yeah, either way.
It's a bit of a circle. It's a different type of grass.
If you are talking about that kind of grass, you definitely don't want to be throwing it in just in the cooking. There's a lot of other ways that you can use that, and you can Google those yourself to find out. If you did want to substitute it for, say, for something other than rosemary, I'd probably, because we're cooking with butter, I'd probably suggest sage or something like that. If you were doing that though, you'd probably want to throw something else in there as well. Garlic, sage, and perhaps a little bit of kind of cayenne or something. Have we died again? Yeah, I think the batteries are dead. Yeah, so other than that, I'd probably throw in perhaps new batteries. Yep, sorry, I can't get the thing out of my pocket. Throw in some new batteries.
And they still think it's live. It's a YouTube video.
Oh, yeah. The joys of live streaming, right?
The pains of not being able to consume that steak at the moment. Just sitting here and looking at it from a distance.
Somebody needs to make a gif of the mic sliding into the shot, because that's hilarious.
But that's also the kind of thing, like you talk about leaving that steak there. That's the hardest part, is you really, really want it to rest just long enough so that it's actually cooked. And so that the fibers have had long enough. So if I'm just going to put my fingers all over your meat.
That is perfectly okay. Because I'm pretty sure your fingers are just covered in butter, so that's alright.
And I'm just picking the right one, so when I
Okay.
cut it open, it's actually
I'm
cooked.
just happy that you've licked your fingers and then you didn't go back to
No, I didn't
poking
go
the
back.
meat.
I didn't double dip. I was
You
like,
didn't go back for seconds.
that the garlic on top as well as the butter is just, it's fucking beautiful.
Tell me more about how we're not tasting it. That's what I want.
So, these potatoes are just about done.
Are they still screaming?
No, they're sizzling. That's a different sound. So all I want to do, just to check that they're cooked, is pierce them with a knife. And if the knife goes through without any resistance, they're cooked. The only resistance you want, I say, as I find some resistance, is the crispy bits. If they're resisting because the skin on the outside's crispy, that's actually really good. So these are done, and so it's basically time to plate up.
So do you prefer the skin on your potatoes, or?
I do. I think there's I don't know how many nutrients there are in the skin of potatoes, but I do like the actual texture of them, and also if you're boiling them, it helps to hold them together, so it just makes it a little bit easier for everyone.
Samus, the reason that there's not much information about this channel is that it's brand new and you're watching the first official stream.
The first official stream. There have been others. There's a test stream that went awry previously, and a test stream that didn't make the cut earlier yesterday.
No one has to know. Marketing.
Shit.
We're no longer in practice mode.
It's alright, because this is a YouTube video, I'll have edited that out.
Yeah, so I guess Brody, because you've had a whole bunch of people join since the last sort of 15 minutes, do you want to let people know exactly what this stream is about?
So on Next Course Unlocked, really what the plan is to take my friends who I've met over the last couple of years working at EA as the community manager in Asia Pacific, on Battlefield, Titanfall, Need for Speed previously, as well as Mirror's Edge, plenty of games, is the people that I've met really tend to eat out a lot and don't really think that cooking is something that can be done at home. Or if they do, it's very much like a microwave meal or something that's really easy but not very healthy. And my whole game is to show that, these things are really easy and they're really, really effective and they're really good at impressing people when you've got someone around. So tonight we've done an eye fillet and roasted potato wedges. My little bit of a slightly more gourmet take on steak and chips. I'm literally just now. Is that a comment laugh or a
Potato racism.
potato
There's a
racism?
lot going on.
Do I want to know what potato racism is?
No.
Is it
Baxter
trending?
180, you spelled my name right, and I really like you now.
Ow.
And Nate Bramley is also here. That's the other voice you hear.
Mr. Science himself.
Mr. Science. He hasn't willingly taken this
Yeah.
title, but it's
Ah,
his now.
okay.
Do I have to sign a waiver on that name? What happens?
It's actually a registered trademark of Next Course Unlocked Industries.
Shit.
All right, so let's just see if my talk is as good as my walk. I'm gonna take your steak that you picked, Nate.
Oh my god, you picked mine.
So if I was gonna be fancy and present it, what you wanna do is find where the grain is. In this case, it's actually running along the shorter side. So I wanna cut it along the longer side. And the reason for that is that if you cut it across the grain as opposed to along the grain, the distance between the meat fibers themselves are shorter, which means that the steak feels more tender in the mouth. Which also means, that's not a euphemism, that if you buy a lower quality cut of steak, like a skirt steak or a flank steak or something like that, and you cook it, too quick, and you're like, oh shit, it's a little bit overcooked, cut it against the grain, and you'll pull back a couple of degrees. So I'm just gonna slice this now, a little bit fancy across the grain. So I'm actually really happy with that.
So good.
You've got that beautiful pink color in the center. This is probably a little more done than I would have liked, but I do tend to say that about anything I cook. You've got that beautiful pink color in the center, but the circle around it is nicely balanced. So I'm just gonna cut some nice thin strips there. And if you just cut on a little bit of an angle, you'll find it really nice and easy to get those thin strips. And it also looks really nice for presentation because you get a little bit of a kind of bezeled edge on the sides.
James Turner is also joining us in the chat.
Oh shit, what up? Dat boy James Turner. He's a famous YouTuber. Did you guys know that?
He's famous on the internet.
He's like reasonably famous on the internet.
I'm just happy that I don't have to cut my own meat and that each of these are adequate mouthfuls.
I'm glad you said that.
So you guys don't have to worry about innuendo because
Yeah.
the chat's got it covered.
Alright, well that's fine then. As long as
Anyone that follows me on Twitter, I would be supremely disappointed if the chat for this show wasn't full of innuendo and doublespeak.
It's chockers.
I'm
You
just happy I don't
worry
have to think about it anymore. That's awesome.
So I'm just gonna splay. I think that's a
Yeah.
word
Yeah.
that just
a word that
around.
exists.
Not quite sure if it's used appropriately, but it definitely
Yeah,
is a word
sure.
that exists.
Also, this little extra bit, you don't get that. That's mine.
All right. Okay.
Shut up! I cooked it.
Yep. All right.
I'm gonna pinch just a little bit of this crispy rosemary, just as a bit of a garnish on top. And there you have. I'm gonna have to do this. I can put Nate's dish underneath. If you want to get really fancy, which apparently I do, grab a tea towel. Just kind of dust away any of the extra bits. Move the stuff off the stove before you put anything in front of it.
The hot stuff. I could say you're the hot stuff in front of the stuff. But
Aww.
yeah, got you. Don't worry.
And there you have it. My take on steak and chips is an eye fillet with crispy potato wedges and a rosemary garnish.
Can we eat it?
Yes, let's eat. Everyone, thank you for tuning in to the very, very first official Next Course Unlocked stream. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any suggestions on what we should cook, tweet us at NextCourseUNLKD. Unfortunately, Twitter doesn't like long usernames, so jerks. Or hit us up on Facebook at facebook.com/nextcourseunlocked. Make sure to follow. Hopefully we had enough viewers that I can go partnered and then you guys can subscribe. But in the meantime, people want to eat it on camera? No.
I want to eat it.
You can taste it. I will get an independent test, but eating streams are actually banned on Twitch Creative. Any kind of munbak, I think it is, which is a really weird word.
The Korean
Yes.
Banana.
lunch eating thing?
Banana eating.
Well, we have to taste test it.
All right.
So I'm gonna take
What if it accidentally was elevated into it? This is my plate.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's good. Wow.
I'm gonna eat a batata.
I don't even know how to explain that. That's delicious.
Well, my favorite part is that there's 5 people in this house at the moment
I'm so happy.
and only 4 steaks. So we may have to come up with a second show that's Battle Royale coming up right after this.
Hunger Games.
Yes. Why don't we have
had to
Hunger
say it.
Games in this
I
kind
had
of
to say
Hunger
it.
Games? All this time I was like, Next Course. That's like a racing game kind of thing, and that ties really nicely with I like food and first course and main
I think the
course and
Hunger Games is
everything.
probably copyrighted.
What if I called it the Hungry Games?
Nope.
Yeah, that's probably taken too.
Thank you for cooking us
All right,
dinner.
and on that note, thank you for tuning in. We'll be back next Wednesday with new surprise guests and a new surprise dinner because I haven't thought of what to cook yet. But again, like I said, make sure to follow us on Twitter. Make sure to follow us on Facebook. Please follow us on Twitch if you want to see what's happening next time. And as always, let us know your guest suggestions, your menu requests, anything you want to see us cook or me cook because I do the cooking. Thank you.